kind of get this anaOpenRange indicator set up. So what I found is that you have to set this offset value. You can see this opening range indicator is pretty sophisticated. It's got a lot of options and stuff in here. But I think the key one is that you need to know what your UTC offset time is. And so for me, mountain time is -7, has a -7 UTC offset value. And the market's open at 9:30 Eastern time, so that's why it says 7:30. So that's the offset there for me. And we're just using the default opening period of 30 minutes. So I think that's all I needed. Let's see. Oh no, regular open. Okay, yeah, I had a regular open. All right, I think that'll do it. Let's go see. It's not plotting. Oh, that's right. I think it had to do with the session template. Session template. Yeah, use instrument. Oh, right. Data series. And that was it. Yeah, so that's right. My charts usually are using the default 24/7. So to get this OpenRange indicator to work properly, you need to use the instrument settings. There we go. All right, great. So there's our opening range for oil. Okay, first thing I want to do is test this indicator. See how it works in real time here. So here's a little tip of the day for NinjaTrader. So the way you can kind of see how an indicator, how you can kind of simulate an indicator working in real time is you scroll back on your chart and reload your chart like so, and then use the arrow keys on your keyboard and you can step forward 1 bar at a time. All right. Now, yeah, so we can see the white triangle that I drew, right? And we can also see the open range indicator beginning to plot, right? We can see some text here on the chart, and that's that opening range and an opening range indicator. And we can step through this. Yeah, so we can see the indicator is expanding its lower range as I step through each bar. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So what that tells me is that, BloodHound, well, what it tells me is the open range indicator is providing a range, right? It's providing these range plots on the chart in real time, all right? So BloodHound doesn't know when the range is done. BloodHound just says, oh, I'm getting an upper range plot and a lower range plot from this indicator. Great. And you know what? Ignore what BloodHound's doing for now. Let me disconnect this here. Yeah, let me just start a new. There we go. All right, there we go. A new logic template, right? That has nothing in it. So there you go. That removes all the BloodHound stuff. So now we know that while the range is building, there's not going to be any breakout, right? So we don't have to worry about that. So that's a good thing. Okay, but what I will have to, what we will have to tell BloodHound is we will have to tell when the range is. So we'll have to put a limit on BloodHound's output so that it's not generating, any kind of signal to BlackBird during this time here, right? We don't want BlackBird submitting a entry order quite yet, right? So we need to put a block, some kind of a time block on BloodHound so that it will generate a signal only after the open range is done, is finished, right? So basically we can see on the very first bar here. So let's see, I'm gonna check the times here. Actually, this bar is included in the time, I believe. All right, yeah, so that's the 8 o'clock bar. And the next bar. Yeah, look at that. So, so the very first bar after the opening range, boom, did the breakout. All right. So, it quite often it comes down to the various details of what the market can throw at you when you're trying to build a system here. So I'm actually going to have to allow BloodHound to start generating an output on one bar before the range time is finished. So we're gonna have to allow BloodHound to generate a signal 1 minute or 1 bar prior to the range period ending here. So that way BlackBird has time to place its entry orders, right? Clearly, if BlackBird, BlackBird or Raven, but basically if we wait for this bar to close, which is after our time period, well, it's too late. So we're gonna have to submit our entry orders 1 minute earlier before the range finishes building. So, okay. All right. So before I get started here, let me take a quick peek at last week's logic here. Yeah, that was just a simple crossover solver. So a crossover solver is all we needed, just checking to see when price crosses over the upper range or the lower range plot. And then I had a threshold solver. Yeah, this resets the signal blocker. Yeah, so I had a crossover solver going into a signal blocker, and then another node here which resets the signal blocker. So this signal blocker, what it's doing is it's only allowing the first breakout signal to occur, right? Because without this signal blocker, what would happen is you would get lots of breakout signals, right? Because price broke out, and then it goes back into the range, and then it breaks out again. So this crossover solver would just generate, it's going to generate a breakout signal every time there's a breakout. But most opening range traders just want to see the first one and ignore all the rest. So this signal blocker allows the first signal to get through, and then it blocks all the rest. And then at midnight, at midnight, we reset the signal blocker so that it's right. So that way the next day's breakout signal can pass through. All right, so it was pretty simple. Let me take a sneak peek here again. Okay, so. All right, so done with that chart. So now we can start building here. All right, so starting on our logic tab, let's see, let's grab a crossover solver. Actually, no, this time, that's right. We don't want to use a crossover solver. So let me delete that. Yeah, so instead of waiting for the crossover to occur, which is too late, we want to know when the market, when the price of these bars gets close to one side of the range or the other side of the range, right? So we're looking for price to get, within some kind of proximity to the upper range or the lower range. So that's going to be a comparison solver. Yeah, I'm just wondering if I want to use a comparison solver or a support resistance solver. Quite a few times there's usually two ways that you can approach building a condition, building something. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the comparison solver. It's a lot simpler to deal with. All right, so what are we comparing here? Well, we want to know, we're looking at price to see is price closer to the upper range or is it closer to the lower range? So let's take a look at the high of the bar. So if the wick, the upper wick gets close to the upper range, we'll use that. But if the low price of the bar gets really close to the lower range, we'll use that to basically generate a kind of a what should we call it? A price approximation detection, right? So for a long, we're going to use the high of the bar. We're going to use the high price, right? So when the high wick gets close to the upper range, that'll tell us that, there's probably going to be a long breakout. But if the low wick gets close to the low range, then that's basically a heads up or a clue that there's a good chance that there might be a short breakout. So we'll use the low price of the bar for a short signal. Now, B is going to be our open range indicator. All right, there it is. There. All right, now to get this open range indicator to work in your time zone, you will have to go in and adjust these indicator settings. Definitely don't email us. This is not our indicator, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing with this indicator. I just played around with it a lot until I got it figured out. So if you do have questions about this, email Lizard Trader. So the ANA indicators come from Lizard Trader, as I showed you guys earlier. So email them, about adjusting all these indicator settings. Let's see. All right, I think those are the only two settings I needed to change. Let's see. I wonder if... Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna, before I go too far, I'm gonna test one of these indicator settings here. So turning this extended open range plots until close. I'll set that to false and see what that does. Yeah, it looks like it's still plotting that open range all the way. Yeah, looks like it keeps plotting it anyways. Let me scroll back to yesterday. All right, yeah, so here's the open range from yesterday. Yeah, it looks like it keeps plotting and plotting and plotting. Until it's closed anyways. I'm not sure what that setting does. Shoot. I was hoping that maybe this would turn the plot off once the breakout happens. But, yeah, it doesn't look like it's having any effect. Okay. Oh, hold on. Let me turn some other stuff off. Show current open. No. Pre-session range, no. Prior days, yes. Okay. All right. There. I wanted to turn off that other plot here that said something like open range open. All right. Anyways, so all right. So back on track here. All right. Yeah, I was hoping that we could turn the plot off early. So if the plot turned off early, then there would be no, there'd be no additional breakouts for BloodHound to detect. And that would make our logic a lot easier if the plots stopped and turned off. All right, so back to this comparison solver here. All right, let's give this a name before I get going too far. So I'm just going to have to kind of arbitrarily pick a value here. So let's say I'm gonna detect when price. Well, actually, let me be more specific. When the high or the low price gets within 7 ticks of the anaOpenRange. Right. So, all right, let's set this to 7 ticks. Like that. We're going to set both of them to 7 ticks. And we also need to adjust the outputs. Right? So for the long output, it says A greater than B. So that means when the high price is greater than the open range. And yeah, bingo. So here, so right now, the way the output is set up, right, is it's detecting the breakout. Basically, when the high of the bar is greater or above the upper range. But we want to know when this is basically inside, below it. So instead of using the A greater than B, right, or A greater than B is the same thing as A above B. So instead of using those, I'm going to use the A equals B within. And oops, put a 1 in there. Set those to 0. Set a 1 in there, like so. So, right, so we have A equals B within 7 ticks. And now if we take a look, there we go. So as long as the high of the bar is within 7 ticks of this opening range, then I get a long output, right? So there you go. So this long output will we'll use it to tell BlackBird, oh, you know what? Once you place a long stop entry, and we'll tell it to place a long stop entry a couple of ticks right above that range there. And then vice versa, right? When this, well, yeah, actually, remember, we're going to isolate it. Yeah, remember I said earlier we would isolate it to the last minute here. Yeah, so let's work on that part. All right, so I'm going to use a threshold solver with this. And I'm going to use a special indicator here. So the SI time block, this indicator, basically its purpose is it helps BloodHound identify, specific blocks of time, right? So that's what we want to do here. So let's put in our time. Actually, what is it? 7:59. Yeah. So this candle here, this last bar within the opening range time period, right, is 7:59. So yeah, end time. All right. And again, this is set for my time zone, so you guys will have to change these values for your time zone, right? And of course, then let's see, 1600. Yeah, there we go. That I should probably set something more practical. Let's say if there isn't a breakout by 10 a.m., then probably just pass on the trade. I don't know. Right? We could set some kind of a, if you wanted, you could set some kind of, use this indicator, use the time block indicator to set some kind of a time limit, so hey, if there's no breakout by, so many minutes after the opening range, then just ignore, just ignore it. Just ignore that breakout. All right, now, let's see which output to use here. So we're going to use the between times. Yeah. So between times. So that means between the start time and between the end time. So that's the time that we want to identify there. And there. All right, yeah. So if we look, right, if we look at BloodHound's output, right, it's outputting between 7:59. So actually this what I had marked was the 8 o'clock bar. So I started it actually 2 bars early, but 1 minute early, right? Because remember, NinjaTrader uses the bar closing time versus the bar opening time. So I know other platforms use the bar open time versus the bar close time. So there we go. So we got 2 extra bars actually before the opening range closes. And then, right, then so basically where you see this output, this is when the breakout can be detected. So the breakout can be detected from 10 a.m. to 7:59 a.m. Right? So that's the period in which a breakout can occur in. So we've kind of set some kind of a limitation on it as well. So that limitation is, it's subjective. It's not necessary, but when you are working with systems, we do tend to place these limits on the system, even though we may not consciously be aware of it or say it. But usually if we are trading, in real time, we usually do have some kind of concept of some kind of limitation that we apply to our, to whatever we're trading. So, so it's a good idea, to try and realize what those might be unconscious limitations that you're applying to your system, and apply them in BloodHound as well, right? So let's see here. What do we call this? All right, so this is basically the breakout time. There we go. We'll just call it the allowed breakout time. There. So let's take a look at the indicator settings, right? So we set a start time of 7:59. We put an end time of 10 a.m. And we want to know the times. We want to know the period or the bars between those times, right? We want to identify the bars between the start time and the end time. So that is what is selected there. All right. Now on the outputs, right? The outputs are a little different because the long output is going to be greater than A, and the short output is greater than A, right? So that is kind of atypical. That is not common to set your outputs both the same on the threshold solver, right? So, but the reason why we're doing that is because we need a long and a short output, because we're identifying a period of time. We're not identifying a trade direction, right? This is just telling us the period of time between 7:59 and 10 a.m. So this is a time period. It's not a trade direction. So that's why we want a long and a short at the same time, because we're just marking a time. And so now we can take these two, join them together with an AND node, and bingo, we're getting closer. There we go. So we can see, so we have 2 bars here, during the open range period, during the generation period of the open range. So BlackBird will see this long signal, and then it can then place a long stop entry before the breakout period occurs, right? So now, so we got this, but look, oh, we have other signals down the road, right? So we don't want BlackBird to keep trading further down the road here. So we need to get rid of all these extra signals, right? And that, let's see, what should I do here? Yeah, so basically that we still need to add that signal blocker in here. So remember from last week's, we were using a signal blocker. So I'm just kind of deciding I can attach the signal blocker right to the solver, right, to the solver, or I can put the signal blocker after the AND node. Both will work. And you know what? I'm gonna put it after the AND node. I think it's easier to understand if I put it after the AND node like this. All right, so there we go. Let's zoom in here. I'm going to turn all the resets off. So we're actually not going to need any resets here. And I just need to calculate like how many bars, what's the maximum number of bars I need to block for. So yeah, this brings up something interesting. All right, so you can see I get, remember the signal blocker is going to block, yeah, it's going to block everything after the first signal. But I don't want to block this second bar here, right? This second bar is still during the breakout period. So I don't want to block that signal, because what if price goes up here and then at the last minute price reverses and then goes down, right, for a possible short breakout. So all right, yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of interesting. Gonna have to rethink this logic here a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, so you know, practically speaking, I don't want to start blocking until the breakout occurs. Yeah, we need to wait for the breakout to occur. You know, because what could happen? You know, think theoretically what could happen. Well, price could bounce around in here for, you know, quite a while before it breaks out. So price could reverse and go back down, in which case, you know, we want to submit a short stop entry order down here at the lower range. But, you know, price could come down here and change again and decide, oh, maybe I'll break out to the upside. So, you know, so then we need to generate a long signal if price decides to come back up, you know, for a possible long breakout. So I don't want to block any signals here while price is bouncing around inside the range. You know, we want to make sure that we only block after price makes that breakout. So let's see here. So this is going to get interesting. Yeah, so I think I'm going to need a toggle node. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking of some solutions here. Yeah, so connecting in this toggle node, if we take a look at the chart, you know, what it's doing is, right, it's holding on to the last value here. Yeah, so as price comes down, right, it's basically that toggle node is holding on to, you know, holding on to that, the position that, well, there could be a short breakout. And then again, as price comes back up, well, now there could be a long breakout. Yeah, so the toggle node is going to flip back and forth, but the reason why I used a toggle node is the toggle node has a reset. Okay, yeah, all right, get this figured out. Huh, yeah, this is going to be interesting. All right, so let me get some other pieces here. So earlier I had mentioned we need to wait for the breakout to occur. And then we want to block all the rest of the signals here. Right? Wait for that breakout to occur. So let's put together a crossover solver. Crossover solver that will detect that breakout. All right, I'm going to need this signal blocker later, but let's get it out of the way. Okay, so the crossover. All right, we're going to set to price. And instead of using the closing price, I think it's going to be safer if I use the wick prices. So I'm going to set long to the high price of the bar, right? Because think about it, it is possible. Remember, if we have stop entry orders resting here, right? It is possible that the wick of the bar could come up and pick that order up, and then price could pull back down inside the range, right? So the bar could actually close inside the range, but one of the wicks could pop out and pick up that resting stop entry order, right? So we need to use the wick prices of the bar. And yeah, so there we go. So we use the long for the long, use the high for short, use the low. And we're looking, to cross above the open range indicator. All right, so there's our open range indicator. All right, let's get these settings changed. Okay. And let's select the correct plot. There we go. All right, bingo. There's our breakout. There's one. And of course, this crossover is going to detect all the breakouts, right? So there's another breakout and another breakout. Right? Actually, yeah, here's a good example, right? So this bar is inside the range, right? But the wick broke out, right? So that could happen, that could happen at the beginning. You could get the wick breaking out and picking up that order, right? So, all right, and let's see what else. All right, let me name this here. So this is looking for the high or the low, crossing over, right, the anaOpenRange there. All right. Let's see. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a signal blocker. Or maybe I should use a signal extender instead. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to try a signal extender instead here. All right, so now I have to figure out how many bars am I going to extend for. And let's see. So to know how many bars I'm going to extend for, let's see, I need to see, I need to figure out how many bars, after, let's see, how many bars after the range? Yeah. How many bars after the range? After the opening range. All right, so let's see, that's from 801, and I set a limit of 10. So let's just say 2 hours. 2 hours on a 1 minute chart is 120 bars. All right, yeah. So what I'm considering is, right, this toggle node is holding on to the signals coming out of this AND node, right? So what's going into the toggle node? Well, it's all these signals that we see on the chart. And these signals are going to turn off after 10 a.m. And why is that? Well, because remember this allow breakout time. So remember this allow breakout time. It ends right there. So it ends at the 10 a.m. bar. So I can't get any more signals. So no more signals will come out of this AND node. So therefore, there's no more signals coming into this toggle node. So what I need to do, right, is I need to count the number of bars from here to here. Right, and this is 2 hours. So 2 hours on a 1 minute chart is 120 bars, right? So if you're using something different than a 1 minute chart, then you'll have to want to recalculate how many bars you need to extend for. It's okay to go over. Right, so again, this signal extender. So what am I doing? I'm detecting the breakout. Right, so I am taking this breakout. So when the first breakout happens, I'm holding on to it and saying, okay, the breakout happened, and extending it forward in time. So I need to extend it forward for 120 bars. And there we go. Now I'm using this signal extender to basically disable the toggle node, right? I'm going to use the reset of the toggle node and disable this toggle node. All right, so it's going to take a step back. So this toggle node, I want the toggle node to tell BlackBird, you know, whether to place a long entry order or a short entry order. But after the breakout occurs, well, I need to turn that toggle node off so that it's not telling BlackBird to take more trades, right? I don't want these signals going into BlackBird, so I need to turn that toggle node off. So I'm using the signal extender, right? So this solver is detecting the breakout, and then the signal extender extends that signal so that way we can disable the breakout, or so we can disable the toggle node, you know, for as long as necessary. So actually, interesting. Yeah, so I can see that actually the signal extender is going well past our 10 o'clock time, which is fine. That, you know, that's just fine. You know, we can keep disabling the toggle node, you know, well past 10 o'clock. That's fine. But also, but I want to make sure that right, I want to make sure that the toggle node is going to be completely disabled. So I need to disable the long output and the short output from that toggle node. So my signal extender will need to have long and short output at the same time. So we can see here there's only a long output coming from the signal extender. I need a short output as well. So what I'm going to do, actually I can just do that. I can do that in the crossover solver here. I can use this output against direction and set that to 1 as well. And oh, right. No, that's not going to work because of the prices. Okay. Sorry. So let me stick with my original plan, which is to use a long short modifier. Use this function node here. So I could take this function node, and the mode I want to use is addition. So this long short modifier is going to generate both a long and a short signal. Right, so let's look at the chart here. Right, so when we get this breakout, when we get a breakout, right, this long short modifier gives us a long and a short, long and a short, long and a short. So I'll stick that into the signal extender. So now the signal extender has long and short. So I can use this long and short to disable my toggle node. So let's take a look at the toggle node. And I need to set the reset function on the toggle node here. So instead of no action, if I get a reset signal, I want to force the toggle node off. So I'm using the reset to force the toggle node off. And I'm taking this signal taking this signal coming out of here and connect it in there. And bingo, there we go. Let's stretch this down a little bit. There. So while the opening range was building, right, price was closer to the upper range. So we got two long signals. And these long signals will be used to tell BlackBird, place a long stop entry, right, just above the range, just above the upper range. And right, and basically when price, is oscillating around here, right, we can see there's no short signals, right? So BlackBird's not going to take it's not going to place another trade. It's not going to place any more long trades. It's not going to place any more short trades because we have a nice clean signal here before the range is broken. So let's scan through the chart and let's check the rest of the chart. Yeah, okay, so no more signals for the rest of today. Let's go backwards. Let's check yesterday out. All right, so here's our range, opening range from yesterday. Yeah. I wonder if this indicator will plot the range duration, or the range, what do they call it? The opening period. Let's see if it'll plot the opening period. Oh, developing range. Maybe that's it. How about if we set that to white? Let's see. Yeah, maybe that only works in real time. Doesn't seem to be working historically. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So anyway, I'll just draw it manually on the chart. All right, yeah, cool. So yeah, if we look at this, let's kind of zoom in here. So here's this great example yesterday. So price just kind of oscillated around inside that opening range. And then finally, boom, we get a little breakout there. And so that wick would have picked up the resting stop entry order. And then we can see no more, right? So that after that wick would have picked up that order, there's no more signals here. No more signals, so no more entry orders will be placed anymore. Right, so that's exactly what we want to see here, is that. So, all right, let's take a look at the next day. See what happened. All right, so there is our opening range time period. And yeah, look at that. So price came down and generated the lower range. I'm kind of thinking we might have to make some time adjustments here. Instead of generating a signal 2 bars ahead, we might have to prevent this to just the last bar of the range time, the opening range period. So yeah, let's take a look at how this indicator. Well, let's try and simulate what's going to happen in real time here. So I'm going to reload the chart, and let's step through this. Okay, so we have a range and a signal. So bingo, we'd have a short stop entry, you know, sitting a tick below that range. And then the next bar, boom. All right, so yeah, we can see that, yeah, there we go. So we can see that the order was placed too early, right before the range had time to finish developing, and the short entry order would have got picked up incorrectly because the range hadn't finished developing. So we need to kill the signal on this first bar here because this is too early. Yeah, it's too early. So that's why it's always good to go back and test all the different days and see what all kind of crazy scenarios you know, the market can come up with and what price can come up with. All right, so I believe it is this solver here, right? This solver here that's the allowed breakout time. And yeah, I can see it's that is what's starting 2 bars early before the breakout's finished. So if we go into our time here, okay, so instead of 1 minute early, yeah, because NinjaTrader prints the closing time of the bar, we need to use 8 o'clock there instead. Okay, there. So we can see no, there we go, no output on this bar here. It's only the very last bar, right? So the very last 8 o'clock bar. So there, that should fix it. Bingo. All right, so now on this last bar, the range has had time to develop. And then, all right, so, oops, let me grab that there. So there we go. Now, on this last bar, now the short stop entry order can get placed. Right? So short signal, short signal, short signal, and then BlackBird gets a long signal. So now a long stop entry is placed. Right? So the short would be canceled and the long would be placed. And all right, then it gets canceled again, and then a short is placed, and then look at this. Okay, so I was wondering if this would ever occur. Look at BloodHound's output. See down here, BloodHound has both a long and a short output at the same time. Yeah, so we had a really narrow range. And let's see. And the wicks, yeah, so we had this bar that had this really extending wicks. So, yeah, it looks like we need to put some additional filtering on here. So, let's see. I'm thinking we could use the close of the bar. And one thing I noticed about our opening range indicator, let's get BloodHound to open here. So I noticed that in our opening range indicator, let's get this open again here. There we go. So here's our opening range indicator. it has a midline, right? Opening range mid. I'm assuming that would be the middle of the opening range. So I can check, and I can check the closing price of the bar. You know, I can say, hey, is the closing price of the bar, you know, above the midline or below the midline? And that should hopefully give me a better clue as to whether price might want to break out to the long side or the short side. So let's throw that in. Yeah, let's see. So I've already got this solver built here that's looking at the wicks, right? The high price and the low price of the wicks. But now I want one that's going to look at the closing price of the bar. So we can make a copy of that. And there it is. Okay. So I can make a copy of this. And this time I'm going to look at the closing price of the bar and see, is it above or below? So we're going to get rid of the 7 ticks, above or below, right, the midline. How about if I do this, the opening range midline? Or, oh, actually, above or below the ana midline. There we go. The ana opening range midline. Okay, so let's clear out the 7 tick here. A 0. This gets set to the closing price. And now for the opening range indicator, we want to compare the midline. Yeah, so we want to select the midline plot there. And we're having to change quite a bit here. So maybe copying that node wasn't such a shortcut after all, but that's okay. At least it had the settings already for our opening range. So, so we're going to set the outputs like this. Yeah, we want to know if the close of the bar is greater than the opening range midline for a long. All right, so now that we have that, let's put that new solver here. Here's the new solver. Let's put it on the board, and let's take a look at it. And we don't need the signal blocker, so let's delete that. All right, so let's take a look. Yeah, so looky here, we have a bar that the close of that bar is exactly on the midline. And actually, yeah, I don't think you guys can see it, but that midline is right there. It's really faint. Let me see if I can change the color. There you go, midline. There you go, I'll make it a little brighter. There, now you can see it. All right. But now, if the bar closes above it, right, we're getting along. So as long as the bar closes above that midline, we're getting basically a long bias, right? And if the bar closes below it, we're getting a short bias. So here, remember, this was the bar that had long wicks on it, but the bar, it was an up bar, and it closed above it. So it gave us a long bias. So we can use this long bias to kind of filter out when the wicks are close to the upper range or if the wick is close to the lower range. When right? It's amazing what the market can throw at your logic, right, when you're building this stuff. Okay, so let's get this back open. So we can take this, and yeah, so again, remember, so this bar here, if we look at BloodHound's output, right, we're getting a long and a short, but when we throw this bias in, bingo. Now, we're saying, with using, right, some extra logic, well, that wick got close to the upper range, and the close of the bar is above the midline, the middle point of the range. There. So now let's take a look. Let's take a look at the results here. Okay, great. So, so it looked like price might be going down, but then price starts moving up, and yeah, so bingo. When price got within 7 ticks of the upper range, then we got a long output, because maybe we're going to get a long breakout. But nope, price comes back down to the lower part of the range, so maybe we're going to get a short. But nope, price switches again, so maybe we're going to get a long breakout. So a long stop entry is placed, and bingo, price hits it. So we did finally get a fill there. And then we can see no more signals. All right, no more signals afterwards. So we're done. All right, I think this does it. But hold on, let's look back a couple more days and see what else the market can throw at our system. And oh, there's not enough data. All right, yeah, let me add a couple of extra days here. All right, so I guess we'll kind of take a fresh look from the beginning. So, okay, great. So here's today. One signal, perfect. We got that breakout. Done. No more signals during the day. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. No more signals. Just the first one. All right, let's go back to yesterday and check those signals again. Make sure everything's still working as expected. And yeah, bingo. So price was floating around the upper part of the range. We got, right, a long output, so we have a long stop entry order sitting there, and it gets picked up, and no more signals afterwards. Okay, so good. This was not affected, So basically, what I'm doing is, when you add a new node to your system, it may have unintended effects. So it's good to go back and check everything from the beginning again, just to make sure that there were no unintended effects on your signals. So far, all right, so the first 2 days look good. And I think this is where we're stopped. I think we stopped at this day. Let's see. Yeah, this is where we stopped at. So that's good. All right, so now we can go another day back. Now that we have more data on the chart for the indicator. There we go. All right, so let's kind of draw the anaOpenRange time, and there it is. And yeah, bingo. Nice solid breakout to the long side, to the upside. Bingo. and no more signals afterwards. Let's see. Well, I guess, yeah, price never came. Yeah, price never came back to that opening range again. So definitely no more signals. All right, let's see if we can go back one more day. Take a look there. Here we go. All right, there's our range again. Let's see when. Okay, there's our opening range time period. So yeah, we can see prices chopping around a little bit, right? Looks like it might go short, looks like it might go long, short, long, and then we get that long breakout. Great, long breakout, and no more signals. Yeah, so even though price still comes inside of our range, no more signals for the rest of the day. All right, I think we have it nailed down. See if I can go back one more day. And, oh yeah, it looks like we got one more day. Another day to look at. And yeah, perfect. So we can see price is hovering around the bottom side of the range. And right there, we get our breakout. So there is our breakout, and we're done. Yeah, no more signals after the breakout. Yep, great. Yeah, no more entry signals for the rest of the day. Good. All right. I think we have it. I'm gonna conclude it right there. Let's see. One last step, though. I noticed I didn't rename my logic template here. I didn't change the name. So let's give this a name here. So anaOpenRange. Opening range signal for stop entry orders. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, so this is not an actual breakout signal. It's a preemptive signal for a stop entry. And yeah, let's clean up let's plug that in there. Kind of like having the leaders nice and orderly. Kind of makes it easier to read. All right, that should do it. If I don't see you tomorrow, guys, have a good weekend, and I hope to see you next week. All right, and keep your questions coming for these emails. So that's what keeps these workshops going.